it's okay if anything in the plan changes. Like the first step to change, but he just wanted us to have something, whether or not it was not.
This kind of coordinates with the first thing I said. Having something that is all yours. I mean, your plan is all yours. I mean, how did you tell me? How did you answer that? What are some of the things that you want to accomplish in the next 5 years?
Well, I couldn't do it that way because it was, when I kind of looked at it, it wasn't ambitious enough for me. So I looked at my life goals, and then with that being at the very end, I kind of just started towards that, and that's how I did it.
And I think that was a big part of the assignment, is like our instructor was trying to get us used to, like, at any moment in our life, just reflect, like, stop working and reflect to see and, like, checking if we're doing what it is we want to do. But I think the plan, it's kind of epic, like, first year after undergrad. What I said I was doing in my plan, it might not be the same, but I'm still checking in, as opposed to just, like, pushing.
Well, that's why I think it's such a good assignment.
Yeah.
Because it can be a sort of bellwether for you for the rest of your life. Am I doing what I really wanted to do, what I set out to do? Because, believe me, you will never be able to follow a calculated route. It's just, things don't work out that way. I mean, I'm doing all sorts of things that I never did. I mean, I know I'm invited here to talk about acting because I've had a successful acting career, and I know I don't take it for granted for a moment. I know I'm an extremely lucky actor, and that I'm a very envied actor because I am able to work in all these different fields. But I think that is the result of me. A lot of strokes of very good luck. The fact that I had a father in the profession, the fact that I was extremely accomplished as a theater actor. So I was ready when the challenges came and when the opportunities came. If I hadn't been quite such a trained actor, and so at home with myself as an actor, I don't think I would have ever been hired to be in World According to Garland, which for me was the big world changer. I wouldn't have been hired to work in the Long Wharf Theater Company to do a role in a new play called The Changing Room, which came to Broadway and won me a Tony Award at age 27. I wouldn't have been equipped to be funny on Saturday Night Live, and therefore end up starring on a sitcom. Those three things that I just described are so extremely different. But what I became known for because of that is that I'm ready to do very, very different things. So people keep coming to me for very different things. But I'm constantly asking myself that question that we were talking about. Am I doing what I really wanted to do? And I don't always feel that way. Sometimes I feel your sense of frustration never goes away. Your sense of your feeling of restlessness never goes away. It's the curse of being an actor. It's never quite enough. You know, somebody's always getting some role that you feel you should have. Yes. Even though I'm getting roles that millions of actors wish they think they should have. But I like that. I like to meet the person who gave you that assignment.
He's our teacher for this class.
Poor Mitch.
Is that
Mitchell. Yep.
Is that what I meant at lunch?
No, that's Scott Reese. Mitchell is in the Midwest because of tornadoes. That's not there. So
Just come back and move.
Yes.
Hi, speaking of Scott Reese, I'm in Scott's directing class. And I was wondering if you have any advice for young directors who are, from an actor standpoint, to because we were talking about directing approaches and what, as an actor, do you have any advice for young directors?
Well, that's interesting. Do they have you acting?
At first we start with this assignment where we coach each other on a certain monologue, which I think is really, really great, and it's helped me a lot because I'm not an actor at all. But I mean, it was really fun to be in that mindset and So a little bit.
Interestingly enough, because of my father allowed me to direct when I was only 23 and 24 years old, when I came back from training as an actor in England, I actually started off as a director. Mainly because I couldn't get any acting work when I went to New York. That 2 years I was telling you about, I was actually doing pretty well as a director. I was even invited to be the associate artistic director of Baltimore Center Stage. That's how.
I'm trying to intern.
And I accepted because I just couldn't get any acting work. And then that Long Wharf job came through, a season at Long Wharf, the one that led to the Tony Award. And I pulled out of that job as associate artistic director, leaving some pretty serious recriminations. They were very pissed off. They created the position just for me. And I felt terrible about it, but I went off and did what I really wanted to do. I would say, my case is particular because I really wanted to act. They always say what I really wanted to do was direct. Well, in fact, I wanted to act, and I was doing just fine as a director. The trouble with seeking directing work is persuading an entire institution to entrust all their workings to you. The responsibility is enormous. You just have to become very good at delegating, picking people to work with who are better at what they do than you could possibly be. Your designers, your lighting people, costumers, and your actors, and trust them with their to do what they do. Awaken their creativity, make them believe in you. I would say the reason why I began by asking if they have you acting and all is I think it is good for you to get some insight into the anxiety of acting. There's a great quote from George C. Scott: all actors are in trouble, and directors who don't help are a pain in the ass. It's very important that you learn something about what makes actors insecure, how you can help them through the process. You're in a wonderful atmosphere because your colleagues are young actors. But I do urge you to act too. You just said you're not an actor, you're not a good actor.
No.
Forget that and act. Anybody can act. It's another my watchwords. Lousy actors can give great performances, and great actors can be lousy. Subject yourself to that. So just so you're acquainted with what you're going through. This is the man I talked about so admiringly, Dan Sullivan. He's just done so much directing right now. He directs like 3 or 4 productions a year in New York. He ran the Seattle Rep for about 15, 20 years. He's relaxed. He allows actors to go through their process. He supports them. He just works in such a positive vein. And I think that just comes out of the experience of seeing them get there and knowing that they will get there and knowing how to help them. Is this helpful? I don't, there are all sorts of other things that you are learning. Stagecraft, using space well, finding the beats in scenes, reading scripts and knowing how they can, when you're working new material, learning how to help a playwright. All of those things are essential, but you've got to get the job in order to become known as a director. That's your biggest challenge. I had a little leg up because my father hired me. Trust me. As soon as you've directed one production, everybody thinks, "Oh, she can do it." It doesn't make any sense. But just the fact that you've done something, you'll suddenly get hired to do something else. And the wonderful thing about this business is everything you do, even little tiny workshops that people pay no attention to, you've all automatically created 10 new relationships, and your world expands. And I think that's particularly true of directors.
Thank you. 1 or 2 more questions, and then we'll start seeing your questions.
Okay.
Marty, I think, and then Sam.
Yeah, hi, I'm Marty. So one of the best things for me about being here and like an acting student in college is just learning the vocabulary to talk about acting and theater. That being said, even within our school, we have completely different dogmas of how to use that, about how to do it, how to approach it. Because performance is just so subjective. So I was wondering, from your perspective, I guess if there's a good acting, what would qualify that, or an effective performance? When you see it, do you recognize that?
Well, we all know it when it's good. I don't know. It's what exactly are you asking? What do I think makes up good acting?
Yeah, if you talk about the experiences.
I think it's all, again, every circumstance is always different.
Right.
There's that thing I said about bad actors can give great performances. You all know the feeling of seeing somebody in a movie, for instance, who's some filmmaker has decided to use a real person. And suddenly there's a remarkable performance. The best example is Hang Nor. Does that name mean anything to you? Hang Nor?
Yeah.
He won an Oscar. He won an Oscar as Best Supporting Actor for The Killing Fields. Never acted in his life. He was a Cambodian doctor. And whoever that bright British director is who directed The Killing Fields.
Roland Jaffe.
Roland Jaffe. He decided, well, let's find a real person to play this real Cambodian. He was incredibly moving, just incredible. He didn't know. He had no idea. He didn't know anything about it.
It's being true.
So, it's so much of it is chemical. But Hang Nor would have struggled a lot in a play, sure. He wouldn't have had the equipment yet. He wouldn't have had the discipline. You guys are all equipping yourself with a lot of discipline. And you're good at what you do, or you wouldn't. You're already good, or you wouldn't have gotten in here. I have a very glib phrase that I just stumbled on in the middle of a television interview with Bill Moyers, but I thought it was pretty good. There are three elements to acting: the meaning, the emotion, and the music. You have to completely understand the meaning of what you're saying. Think about something like Shakespeare, where the meaning is sometimes very, very difficult to even understand, let alone express and make clear. You've got to get right inside a complex speech of Shakespeare in order to make it clear. You've got to have the meaning. The emotion, of course, you have to know what motivates it. You guys are going to be doing Chekhov. The emotion is very complicated. It's what is said is always just a thin veneer covering up what is felt. You've got to know you've got to deeply understand everything that's underneath the words. What is the emotion? And the music is just the sound. In Shakespeare, that's extremely important because Shakespeare is poetry. It's written in an era when there is an intersection between beautiful poetry and emotion, and one was thought to express the other. So you have to really honor the music of Shakespeare. You've got to honor the verse of Shakespeare. The same way you have to honor the verse of a Mozart sonata. You can't just take your time. You can't simply pause in the middle of a musical sonata. On the other hand, there's just as much music to a Beckett play or an Arthur Miller play. It's a different kind. It's a rough music. Just as there's a difference between modern atonal music and the music of Bach. You have to understand the music. So, the meaning, the emotion, and the music. You have to work in all those areas. And at heart, you have to work until you yourself feel comfortable with what you're doing. It's a self-conscious process. You all know the unease of the early days of rehearsal when you think you're just terrible. Everybody thinks you're awful. Put all that to the side and be willing to make a complete fool of yourself. And you build up your courage. That makes sense.